Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. You know, a few videos ago I mentioned Kel'Garath and how he was a sort of good example of continuous dominoes and the narrative falling in the way they should, this logical progression of events and characters tied to them that brings about story changes that make sense, and yeah, then the next week happened and Kel'Garath dropped as one of the bosses in Deep Dive, and well, his ugly mug has shown up again and it's only gotten even uglier. There's actually quite a bit of lore that tells us about how Kel'Garath became taken, so today we'll explore that, and we'll be diving into the lore of this reoccurring villain who is at this point, let's be real, honest, about 2 steps away from becoming the Hive's version of Taniks. You know, he's fully embracing the meme practically. So the last time we saw Kel'Garath, would you guys believe me if I told you that I actually wrote Taniks in my script? I'm being serious, this is bad. The last time we saw Kel'Garath was in the Season of the Seraph, and he's already gone through a long series of changes up until this point. To give everyone a really quick recap of his entire story, we originally knew that Kel'Garath was a Hive Knight in the service of Savathûn, and that he sloughed away his chitinous armor as he renounced her. He tore away the red markings across his body in the Serration pits beneath the Hellmouth and denounced his loyalty to her. This was the moment at which he came into the service of Xivu Arath. From this moment onwards, he was anointed as Kel'Garath risen from bones, and rose to serve the Hive God of War instead. It's clear that Xivu was not afraid of folding enemies, including particularly powerful former enemies, into her core forces, and this is exactly what happened to Kel'Garath. Kel'Garath's role would only become more significant thanks to what we've learned about him this season. The new Taken sniper, known as a Distant Pull, brought with it another description of a moment when Xivu's forces conquered Titan. They were helmed by Kel'Garath, as it turns out, and in the time before he failed any of his duties, this is maybe the one moment where he found some success. It seems fitting, though, that the first task of this Hive Knight, who had betrayed Savathûn, was to capture her old territories in the name of Xivu Arath, and with them, to bind Savathûn's old servants into the War God's service. From distant hollows, a call demands attention. Titan fell into darkness only moments before the first Tombcraft arrived. They bore the burning sigils of war, dripping soul fire from their branded hulls as if it gushed from an open wound. Beneath a churning sea, a guardian light wrapped in metal, yet to be coiled in promise, watched the skies turn to ink and Hive fiends disembark the invading craft. Proclamations scattered across the methane ocean, eager words searing each wave's crest with jade flame. The Hive's intent was clear. Tear asunder the claims of the Witch Sister. Raise the banners of war. Led by a massive knight, acolytes descended to depths once infested by denizens of the Lie, down to where the song of trickery echoed from long-dead shrieks. To take a quick moment here and to just cut in, interject, I think this is the moment at which we're being told that the area in which this is taking place is the old area of the Savathûn Song Strike, where we would have faced off against that boss Shrieker. They marched in adorant procession, surrounded by a host of thralls that defaced the remnant traces of Savathûn's holdings with hungering delight. Held aloft in the claws of a central acolyte was a wizard's skull, recovered from the flame-licked wash before Titan's capture. The acolyte delicately placed the skull upon a ragged sheet of conquered foe flesh, while others carved a circle of runes around it. The acolytes took position over the runes. They threw their heads back and howled a discordant melody that ignited the rune circle, consuming each of them in soulfire conflagration. The melody took hold, flooding the flesh of the accompanying thralls with frenzy. They surged forward, kicked and clawed their kin in a mad scramble to reach the skull first, to claim it. Each time the melody thrummed, an acolyte turned to ash. Each time the melody thrummed, spilled thrall viscera, twisted into fetid swirls around the skull. Blood and ash was offered until none remained. The knight stepped forward, brandishing a blade of deathly malice. I call Xivu Arath. I invoke war's presence. Take this dreg cast out by your sister. Take her claims as your own. The churning soul flame was drawn into the knight's deathly blade, then plunged into the wizard's skull. The runic circle projected an ancient realm, and the knight felt watchful eyes leering from atop a distant black terrace perched above that projected realm. The thunderous response pressed him to his knees. Kel'Garath, I accept thine offerings. Through will, lies are unearthed. Through will, lies are made truth. Through will, lies fall to conquest. Kudazad, bound. You are named in service. So Kel'Garath is one of the forces that originally laid claim to Kudazad. But who is Kudazad? Kudazad is a hive wizard that some veteran D2 players might have remembered and might have seen before. In the older days of D2, there was something known as the flashpoints. This was when you could visit a location and do public events, and Cayde 6 would give you a, well, pinnacle for it, basically, at the time. Yeah, this is so old that Cayde was still alive back then. Flashpoints in themselves stopped existing at a certain point, but each of them was bound in each location with special encounters and bosses that would take place, and Kudazad was one that happened on Titan. For the time being, Kudazad was very much labeled as one of Savathun's minions, and was actually a pretty strong wizard for a patrol enemy. Remember also, this is D2 Year 1, when we didn't have quite the same degree of power that we do now. So yeah, trickier to confront. Either way, she, along with Titan, would be Kel'Garath's first conquest in the name of the God of War. Following this action, Kel'Garath was given the task of hunting down Mara's Techeuns within the Ascendant Plane, thus hopefully stopping Savathun from enacting her ritual and breaking free of the influence of her worm. He failed in this task, even as he led the final assault on the Central Chamber, holding the Witch Queen. Despite this failure, Kel'Garath wouldn't be completely cast away from the War God's service. We learned in the Season of the Seraph, thanks to the judgment of Kel'Garath Glaive, that he was instead gifted a fragment of Xivu Arath's own power. Xivu stated that ruin births renewal, and elevated him to the rank of a Darkblade, and sent him out to assist her in taking over the warsats of Rasputin. When Kel'Garath failed again, it was starting to perhaps become clear that he was less of an ideal servant, but through all of the failure, he continued in his dedication to Xivu's service. This is reflected in the new taken sword of this season, Thin Precipice. It shows us the moment at which Kel'Garath became taken from bones. Sharpened from tip to hilt, drawing all who partake in the ritual of war. Kel'Garath kneels before a feeble altar in an empty court, a dead knight's realm, a shriveled, fleshless rind, a cautionary tale. A wizard floats over the altar. The High Celebrant's domain was once a grand place of adoration. It holds a mighty tribute. The wizard, Rakthrin, War Council, whispers Xivu Arath's bait to the knight. Kel'Garath remembers how Savathun sought the sky and became its puppet, all so she could usurp sword logic. Favor wanes, it can be rekindled. You were disarmed, shamed, beaten so many times by a light wielder. Kel'Garath stands, spinning to face Rakthrin. He thrusts a claw forward at the wizard's throat, but she swoops back from his reach. Kel'Garath sneers. I need no blade, I am wielded. The plates upon my body are razors. Should you have remained with Savathun and prayed to her to give you the light, perhaps you would have found greatness then. You wither without her favor. I spit on the witch sister. I am an instrument of war. Not yet. Not truly. Rackthryn conjures a dark bolt of lightning that saps the room's dim light and casts it into the altar. The altar splits apart with a timbered snap, revealing an emerald sliver of a blade, bleeding shade and whispering rapture. A shard of the taken king's blade, conquered out of love, stolen away from Saturn's shadow. Kel'Garath fixates upon the blade shard. The wizard gestures to it with a lipless smile, and the knight steps forward. I will take it, to be an instrument of her will, to cleanse the hate of weakness with loving violence. Kel'Garath genuflects and encloses his claw around the emerald sliver, wisps of shadow spilling between the gaps in his claws. I offer myself to this union. The barrier of his flesh melts away. A will not his own enraptures him. Kel'Garath risen from bones, taken by war. So Kel'Garath in this moment is taken, seemingly, by Xivu Arath. I say this because even though he's grasping a part of Oryx's old sword, Willbreaker, it's very much the case that it says at the end, taken by war, which implies that Xivu Arath is the one who is in control of him. Furthermore, he is doing so as a means of improving himself and showing his dedication to the god of war, but he's willing to sacrifice all his autonomy to do so. This means that Xivu Arath can willingly fling him at the enemy with abandon now. He now allows loss to be his teacher, one that will sharpen him into a better weapon that one day might strike true. But all that being said, I mean, let's be honest, he's not really the most impressive of combatants that we've faced. I mean, again, he's one step away from becoming a meme at this point, and so, I mean, it's really sad. I mean, he sent me this Discord message at one point asking to be friends, and frankly, I'm just not for it. The guy literally tried stopping us 3 times now, and each time he keeps getting sent back, he just fails again, and I mean, at a certain point in time, Xivu's got to take the hint that the common thread with all the operations that Kel'Garath fails in is Kel'Garath. It's not necessarily us. So, I mean, yeah, Kel'Garath, taken from bones. Oh god, I hope that you don't die and get risen as a Hive Light Bearer, otherwise the meme will be complete. And ironically enough, he will fall back into Savathun's service. I mean, that would take the bait, that would be the real kicker. I don't know, maybe we'll see him again before Final Shape in the season prior to it all. Maybe we'll see him sometime next year. Either way, I don't know if Kel'Garath is quite done yet, because Kel'Garath seems to have this meme of reoccurring. I'm currently keeping bingo of all the different ways that Kel'Garath could come back. Top of my list currently is Siva Kel'Garath or Hive Lightbearer Kel'Garath. When do you reckon he's going to come back, and what method do you think it's going to be? I think Hive Lightbearer might technically be the most likely, but at this point, I'm willing to bet anything because there's some comedy to it now. So yeah, let me know what you think of that in the comments section down below. And will Kel'Garath finally have... Nope, that's Taniks. Taniks will finally have a house. Anyway, point being, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you have any thoughts of your own, comment section's there for you. And if you want more Destiny lore content, go ahead and hit subscribe, and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Rodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.